And welcome back, students, once more as we dive further into Python. Today we are going to do a 2-for-1 deal. We're tackling both conditionals and we're tackling loops, two of the things that really make programming very intuitive. So Python, of course, has if-else statements, all right, and they of course have what's also known as an elif statement, which is like our else if. So we're going to look at those, and then we're going to kind of skip over switch statements. I'm going to give you an example here with this resource here of what to use to make a switch statement. But the thing you have to understand with switch statements, unlike with Java, they're not built in. And it will tell you right here, if you come to this resource, and it says right here, Python language does not have a switch statement. Instead, you have to use what's called dictionary mapping in order to implement it. So if you want to use a switch statement in Python, you can, but it's going to take a little bit of work. All right, but for our purposes, we're going to look at if, else, if, and else. So I'm just going to go ahead here. Let's just start by making a line of input. So just say line equals input. And I'm going to have them say, please enter a word that, let's see, that start. No, let's just have them enter a word. Yep, that's simple enough. Let's keep this simple, not make it super complicated. All right, so we want the word to be butter. All right, so if a line. Now you say, well, how do we do this in Java? Well, if it's a string, we use dot equals. If it's a number, we use equals equals. Well, here's the thing with Python. If you look at the examples that they give, all right, pretty much everything in here with their conditions is going to end up being more like an equals equals because it's not an object-oriented class. So let's just test this to make sure. So if line equals equals, that's to be butter, you want it then to print something. Now you notice that it didn't indent over like we would expect, and that's because if you look at the examples here, we need to put a colon. So the colon is kind of like the curly bracket of Python. So I'm going to say colon, and then let's just have to say print. They are the same. Something really simple. All right, backspace that out and say elif. I'm just going ahead and jump to an elif because by this point in your programming career, you should understand the difference between if, else, if, and else, and you don't necessarily need else, if, and else. But here's our elif, and I'm just say line equals equals quote. Let's say margin. There we go. Going to, forgot my colon. Print, I can't believe it's not butter. Else, and now of course else you don't need that, you just have to put your colon, just say print, I was expecting butter. Okay, so that's our program. So let's go ahead and run this to test it out. Please enter a word. Let's put butter. They are the same. All right, let's go ahead and rerun that program. And let's put margarine. I can't believe it's not butter. And if we put anything else, let's just say hi. I was expecting butter. So boom, there's our if-else statement. Really simple, easy example to give. Now, of course, you notice the problem with this. Every time I want to test the condition again, I needed to have the program restart. What's a simple way I could do this without having to do this over and over again? Oh yeah, I could implement a loop. So we're going to use that as a nice transition into doing a while loop. So I'm just going to come over here. I'm going to say while. And of course, if you try saying like while true, it doesn't quite necessarily work out the way we want it to. Another thing is too, we have to come through here now and pretty much indent all these over to show that these are going to be underneath this while loop. So now everything's all indented. And if I just try saying while true, you see true is not defined. So we have to give some kind of value for that while loop for it to pretty much act as though it's true. So I could just say, I could have a number, for example, here before the while loop, and just say, num equals 0, and we could just say while num equals 0. And now that's technically a true condition. You can see now it will run, but it's going to run forever because there's nothing really to stop this loop. All right, we've made an infinite loop here. So yes, I'm going to kill the program here so we can transition into showing something different. So let's go ahead and do, let's say, a counter. All right, so I'm going to use count, and let's just say while count is less than 5, because let's say we want them to make it in 5 or less guesses. We want to guess the word in 5 or less guesses. All right. Now the only problem with this is the way it stands, what's missing? The increment for counter. So I'm going to come down here. I'm going to exit out of this and just put count. Now, I can't just do count plus plus because that doesn't exist. But I can say that count equals count plus 1. That would be perfectly valid. So let's go ahead and try this out. Butter, margarine, butter. Let's just put hello, butter, boom, and our program is terminated. So that's a quick and dirty example of how to use a while loop. Of course, I've given you some examples of how to implement that here. And of course, we have our infinite loops. We have a counter example in here as well. So it gives you some examples of how to use these different syntaxes that we're already very familiar with. Now, the for loop is the tricky one to look at here because it's not the for loop in the way we think about in Java. In Java, we have our our initial value, we have what it's testing against, and then your iteration or your incrementer or decrementer. So if you look at these constructions, though, these don't look like traditional for loops. No, they're for each loops. So if you're very comfortable with using for each loops from Java, you're going to have no problem using for loops in Python because they are functioning very similar. But if those words, excuse me, if you're not that comfortable, you might just say, well, I'm just going to write everything as a while loop because that's what I'm more comfortable with. Perfectly acceptable. There are advantages to being able to do for loops for Python. For example, you'll notice down here they talk about sequencing by index, so it comes in really handy when you want to start like pulling apart these different sequences. For example, here you have fruits is banana, apple, mango. So it says for index in range length fruits, print current fruits of index. Pretty great there. But we're not going to get that complicated right now. We're simply just going to look at constructing ourselves a quick for each loop. So I'm just going to go ahead and enter, backspace out, and let's just go ahead and make another string. So let's just call this sentence and set that equal to another phrase of computers. There, something simple. All right. So if we look at our example here, and I'm going to look at it because I'm not that good with for loops from Python, we're going to go ahead and construct ourselves a loop. So let's just say for, and what we want to do is pretty much have it pull something out of that phrase. So in this case, they're using letter. We're going to use letter as well. You could use anything else. It could be like for I in, and then whatever the phrase is. So in this case, they're using Python, but we're just going to say sentence because that's what we're pulling it apart from. For I in sentence, print, and they're saying current letter, blah, 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 letter. So we're just going to say print I. Okay, let's see if this works. I don't know if it will. Like I said, I'm not as familiar with these, so let's go ahead and run that. Missing parentheses to call print. Oh, yes, we are missing our invocation of print. So let's just go ahead and put parentheses there and run that. Enter a word. Okay, so we got to do our butter. Let's do butter 5 times here. All right, and you can see another phrase of computers. Boom, it printed out. So that was a quick and easy one to look at how to construct that. You can see it does the pretty much same thing in their examples here. If we want to do something like this, we can do that as well. You have other examples in here to kind of help you. You're still struggling with how to construct a for loop. Remember, this is, of course, as I mentioned, a lot closer to a for each loop that we do in Java than it is a traditional for loop in Java. So if you're not comfortable with for each loops, you can still use while loops, because that is a very direct translation from what we're used to using. So hopefully this has given you now tools to be able to do some conditionals and also be able to do loops, because you're going to need those two tools in your toolbox moving forward as we start diving into more complex programs. And with that being said, folks, I'm going to kind of sign us off for today, and I will see you next time.